Hi there, everyone. My name is Mauricio Ramirez. You probably didn't need the full name, but still, this channel will be known as me, being known as Nerdy Wolverine. I would have the look, but the majority of my cosplay is in storage at the moment. I'm in a very weird, moving transitional period right now, and it is, it's been strange to organize these things. But for now, I had to settle because I've been wanting to launch the YouTube channel for the longest time, and I wanted to bring this guy along. See, Wolverine has been my favorite Marvel character since I was a kid. I even cosplayed as him when I met Stan Lee in 2017, which was an honor. And I thought, it must be a sign that, him being my favorite character, that I should, you know, do something that has me critiquing several movies, comic books, shows, anime, and whatnot. That brings in this guy. Of course, since I wouldn't really look like him, all shredded and whatnot, I can't say that, I do kind of get the sidelines a little. I'll grow them out later, for sure. But I suppose that's why I've added nerdy in front of it. Nerdy Wolverine. I'll probably put on glasses on for him. Or he'll just be known as Wolverine. Ain't that right, bub? Well, anyway. Nah, I didn't do that right, did I, huh?
What's up, bub?
Something like that.
My claws have been aching for some action.
Something like that, I don't know. This is the introduction of my channel. And this is the first time I'm ever doing this. I never thought of myself doing YouTube before. It's a strange thing. But just keep in mind that, I do like critiquing a lot of things, but I've never done it, via the internet. Or I've done it on my Instagram, on Jaegerbomb. And that's the funny thing you'll see, is that here I'll be known as Nerdy Wolverine, whereas in Instagram I'll be known as Jaegerbomb, and in my art profile I'll be known as Titan Firestorm. 3 names I have, yeah. 3 personas, if you will. And I don't mind it. I know it must be strange, if you would be able to search me on that, but I like every single one of them, and I can't really pick which one I want to settle for. So, yeah. So here, this will be my introduction to this channel as a way for you to get to know me as a critic, in a way. This guy will help me along, and I'll be doing some funny voices with him. Or, in this instance, he'll do his own voice. I'll be the ventriloquist, if you will. And, what's a, grown man, almost gonna be 25, in the next week, playing with dolls. Like, seriously? It's unheard of, isn't it? Nah, not really. Nah, I like collecting. You'll find that I have a very vast collection of different media stuff that I've enjoyed since I was a kid, stuff that I'm barely getting new to now, and here you'll find that I will post some of those interactions with these actors who have portrayed these characters. Maybe you'll even get to see some of the actors who portrayed this guy right here, because I wouldn't know how to voice him accordingly. We'll work on it though, definitely. But keep in mind that there will be a special guest appearance towards the end of my videos. The majority of them, at least. I'll do my very best. But here, just bear with me, support whatever way you can. Like a comment. Please, I do take criticisms quite well. I didn't used to. Before, while I am an art major, I actually graduated from CSULB 2 years ago now. And during that time, it was difficult for me to take criticism on the work because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was still discovering what my art was, and finding my own footing, finding my own critique, thinking my own thoughts, and saying them out loud. That took a lot for me to do. I'm still considered a bit shy, but not as much as before. I have gained some sense of confidence in my college years and in every social interaction since then. So it has definitely helped. And here, I wouldn't be, as shy if I were to just be controlling some doll and then putting it on the internet, now would I? But either case, what I wanted to talk about today, I know you're probably expecting a Wolverine comic or something like that. I will. Wolverine media, anything like that, I can definitely do. But for this video, I actually read, or finished reading, all the boys' comic books. The boys. That sounds creepy. No. It's this. Well, I mean, the boys. The boys TV show. I'm sure you've heard of it. Created for television by Eric Kripke. And, of course, the comic was written by Garth Ennis. And here, let me give you another show. These guys right here. Yeah. I know pretty much I've been a fan since the show, and I thought, I should delve more into the lore of it. I wanted to understand these guys. And I consider these guys to be my first topic. And I wanted to discuss it more because honestly it holds a special place in my heart. Because it does contain a lot of heart and a lot of other stuff that I'm sure you've probably already guessed. As to what. So, here is me talking about the latest installment, last chapter of The Boys. And this entry is called Dear Becky. As many of you who don't know about the story of The Boys, it pretty much follows this group of CIA operatives known as The Boys, who pretty much go against the superheroes of that world, which are known as the Seven, which are funded by Vought. And so I will, proceed to do a story about, the boys overall. But just to get a clear picture, it is the leader, Butcher, and then it's Frenchie, MM, who is known as Mother's Milk, and the female. And then the new recruit would be Huey Campbell, as they call him, Wee Huey. And so following their story was really captivating, and I truly believe that it ended on a great note for Volume 6, which is this one, Book 6, yeah, this one right here. And I think it ended in a way that I was satisfied with. I truly thought that that's how the story should have ended. And, so when I heard that they were going to make an extra story on it, continuing 12 years after the events of the last one, I was skeptical about it. I thought, what more could be said? And then I read the synopsis, and it turns out that it's a diary based on Becky, who was the wife of Butcher, who was killed in an incident involving Homelander. And it turns out, that turn of events led to Black Noir being the culprit. But either case, it led to his vendetta against Supes overall. And I suppose this story plays into how different he was, when he was with her. How he was a different man, a better man because of her, and when she was gone, he was now a man with a war to fight, because that's all he'll ever be. He'll look for a war or a conflict to fight no matter what. And that's what's captivating about Butcher. I think that, no matter where he goes, he always needs to fight. He needs a reason to get mad and angry and violent. And what better enemy than the Supes? And once the Supes were gone, what would be left of him? And this story, I think, captivates the moment where he decided to off every single Supe besides the Seven, besides those that were funded by Vought. And, seeing how, I will get into spoilers. I'm going to say, what happened in the end of Book 6 for you to comprehend what will happen here. In the end of Book 6, it came to a point where Butcher had no choice but to continue his mission to destroy the Supes, and he knew that the boys would get in the way. MM, who was his trusted right-hand man, his brother, basically, went to face him and ultimately killed him. Butcher literally killed someone that he knew for more than a decade, and he didn't hesitate to do it. I'm sure part of him was so broken inside to do it. And then the same went for the female and Frenchie. He knew that his mission was far more important to him than anything. It was almost as if this is the last connection he'll ever have to Becky. He didn't want his love to be destroyed for nothing. He didn't want that image of her, that look that she had for him, that impression of him that she had, to be gone for nothing. And so this story captivates how conflicted Butcher was about everything, about the violence, and how every time he committed violence or killed even, he thought of her. He thought, how would you think of me? How would you, love me if I was like this? And that really, is something to behold, because it's like, how are you going to be your own person without your loved one, without someone like Becky to hold on to? And so it does follow, since Huey was, the one who had to finish off Butcher in the end, pretty much forcing him to, he was left haunted with that. And I truly believe that the ending for Volume 6, where it leaves him and Starlight, who, as some of you may know, as the fans may know, is, the love interest of Huey, and who, they pretty much ride off in the sunset. They didn't ride off, of course, they kissed under the bridge, and that was supposed to be that. The legacy of the boys would live on through him, or so we thought. So here we get a little bit of that happily ever after. Excuse me. With Huey and Starlight, we do get a sense of, Starlight, of course, she's also known as Annie, so she's no longer a superhero. She still has abilities, but I suppose Annie, she is known as Annie. And in this story, Huey receives Becky's diary, and after the entries of her confession as to what happened in the events of the boys, along those lines, after those entries, Butcher began putting his own entries, his own perspective on how he was with the boys. Mallory, who was the head of the boys at the time, was in a way being pushed aside, being as a way of saying Butcher wanted to lead. He didn't really like following Mallory's rules. He liked following his own rules. So in a way, it showed how Mallory was being pushed aside little by little, making room for Butcher to be the leader and to be comfortable with that role. And I suppose, it does. I could see that happening, for us to kind of know how that went about. I didn't feel necessary. Overall, what I thought about this book is that it didn't seem as necessary as I would have thought. What I thought was, it's going to be, an unveiling secret, something that had happened. Instead, it feels a couple of plot holes, I suppose, or stuff that we thought we needed to answer. But I think overall, what Garth Ennis and the other writers and the artists' thoughts when they did this during COVID, for the majority of COVID last year, was something for us, the fans, to enjoy. And what I can say is that it wasn't really necessary for us to know even half of these things. I mean, I always pictured how their happily ever after would have ended anyway. Anyone could picture it. But then they started filling us with, a little story as to little sideline quests about the Stormford's children that the boys at the time were investigating and trying to turn and whatnot. An interesting plot, and also involving a tech expert who wanted to do his own thing besides bought about the Scorchers, and didn't seem that captivating. And to be honest, it felt a little watered down. This one, compared to the last volumes, felt a little watered down. I don't know, compared to their work. I don't know. Maybe they had to tone it down just slightly to tell this bittersweet story, because when you take the events of Hero Chasm, That's, it's pretty hectic. And that's what I found about this. It didn't feel like the same tone, but I did find it interesting how they would introduce it in a very woke era. How everything is very woke nowadays. Everyone wants, their perspective on how things should be or should look. So seeing Huey and his friend talk about these things was kind of interesting. I wanted to see, always wanted to see what the boys would thought of that, but I wanted to see more of Butcher's side of things, not really Huey, because I'm gonna be honest, Huey, I think I get very impatient with him on the majority of the time, especially for this one, and especially in the story where he goes back to his hometown in Scotland, and then Annie is trying to apologize to him, trying to take him back. No, they were, when Huey found out that she's a soup and that she did those things that she did in the events of the first volume, you know, like he saw her as this, completely different person and started telling her these horrible things. And, you know, it's, you know, what I liked about the one from the TV show, the Huey in the TV show, he understood immediately that, none of that was her fault or anything. And honestly, they had more stakes in that one because the Deep in the show threatened to tell everyone that she attacked him. So it added a little bit more stakes to that. But here, in the story, Huey is like literally, like Annie literally has to like beg him to see her perspective. I had to pretty much put her whole story, and yet he's not being very truthful at that time. It was his chance to fess up about everything, and it wasn't until later that he thought that he was going to die that he fessed up on everything. Told her he loved her and everything and all that. How he overreacted, and I thought, okay, well that's like the least of their problems now. In this book, they have been together for 10 years, and you would think, oh, they might have learned something. And so I thought, there's still no trust here. He hides the diary of Becky from Annie. So it kind of starts to show you, it's like, after all this time, you still can really be truthful to her. He hasn't even married her. He thinks about marrying her, but she's honestly, Starlight, to be honest, is the most patient character ever when it comes to Huey. And it's like, come on, man. Wake up. It is frustrating to see him, toss away the opportunity to be with someone like her. Someone who's this patient, this beautiful, and this, insightful, who is this understanding. I'm surprised that he managed to keep her after all this time. I actually thought that at one point they would have broken it off, but I suppose it was a happy ending in the turmoil and chaos of the previous story. In this one, when she finds out that he's been hiding the diary, it's I actually like how she did it. She did this baking thing, while he was talking and fessing up about everything, and then he put it on his head. I thought, I thought that was good. That was well deserved. I freaking laughed when I read it, and it turns out that the person who sent the diary was Rainer. I'm sure many of you know Rainer. She was the one who was in charge of the budgets and of the overall team of the CIA of funding the boys. And she lost her position once that videotape of her and Butcher was appeared, and then that pretty much collapsed her career. So in her mind, she thought that Huey would release the tape, and in a way, it would help her once again rise to power, to some political scene. Now that she would literally take advantage of the Me Too movement, for that matter, and it didn't go her way. And honestly, the reveal that it was Rainer, I thought, you know what? They're going by every single character that survived the boys, including, oh man, Stillwell. And I'm not gonna lie, I was disappointed when they showed how mad he got about, the soups. Because apparently in this world, 12 years later, there are no superheroes. They've all pretty much been either exterminated or there's no more products to be done, as Vought would put it. And Stillwell ended up going mad, growing a beard, talking to coconuts, and is actually kind of sad because I always thought that he was this very cool, collected villain that really, instilled fear into Homelander. And I thought that was amazing. And for them to, give us that, oh, turns out he turned mad, we could have left up to the imagination because we saw his disappointment towards the end of the last story where he knew that his products were garbage. It's the same products, the same set of problems, and overall, these superheroes were turned out to be garbage. And, you know, I would have liked to have seen, more of of some sort of bigger reveal in the end as to who sent the diary. But in the end, what this story does is kind of give some lightheartedness to Butcher, showing that light side before he turned completely dark, and again soups everywhere. And honestly, I don't think we needed it. We saw that light side when he explained it to Huey about how much this person meant to her, and how we saw his story when he explained it to his dead father in his coffin. We saw his story there. We knew how much she meant to him. So I don't know why it needed to be pursued in a way. It was nice to see all these characters again together. Me, I miss MM. I miss Butcher. I miss, all the boys. I miss them all. Huey, I do have my problems with it sometimes, but he is somewhat the moral compass of the group, which, it does help with them. But in a way, I just miss the old gang. It was nice to see them. It was nice to see some artwork and humor. And I don't think it was a terrible story. I think that, it was like a little extra story, a little icing on top that we didn't really need, but because we already got fat off the other content. But I guess, this would count as extra frosting, I suppose. And how it ended was somewhat bittersweet as well. He ended up marrying Annie. Huey, I guess, finally tied the knot. His best friend, became his bridesmaid slash best man. And yeah, and that final shot where Huey burned the diary and then wrote one last entry saying that that Becky was always with Butcher was nice little memento. To finally say that, yeah, despite him being the monster that he became, he still had that humanity, that love. And that's good. This is not a black and white story. There's always some gray area. Good people doing bad things and bad people doing good things. It all goes around. And that's what this story was all been about. I just wanted to really, bring some light into my critique of this because I recently read it. And, it's still live in my memory. But I will give a more thorough critique as to the original story of The Boys, the first 6 volumes. So, yeah, tune in for that, and thank you for joining me for this critique. Alright, bye.